$20 says you won't do it. Priya said it in a whisper, her breath warm against Jess's ear, her hand already covering her mouth to trap the laugh. They were standing in the doorway of the library, the actual library, floor to ceiling shelves, the kind of room Jess had assumed only existed in films. And on the long leather couch along the far wall, one arm over his eyes, one foot on the floor, lay Cole Maddox. Asleep, completely, visibly, audibly asleep. There was a soft, even rhythm to his breathing. His tie was loosened. He had been in a board meeting for 6 hours. "That is my employer," Jess said. "He'll never know. Priya, $50. Final offer. I get paid Thursday, and I swear to God I will Venmo you the second I walk out the door." Jess looked at him. Cole Maddox, 38, founder of Maddox Capital, whose face had been on the cover of 3 separate financial magazines in the 18 months she had worked in this house. Cole Maddox, who had never once in those 18 months said more than 12 words to her at a stretch, who left precise written instructions for his daughter's schedule on the kitchen counter every Monday, who kept his world so tightly controlled that Jess sometimes thought the whole house was holding its breath, waiting for his permission to exhale. Asleep, he looked like someone else. His face had let go of whatever it held during the day. He looked younger. He looked, against every instinct she had developed across 18 months of professional distance, extraordinarily beautiful. $50 was her electric bill. "He will never know," Priya said again. Jess crossed the room. Her footsteps were silent on the Persian rug. She crouched beside the couch. His chest rose and fell. The arm over his eyes didn't move. She leaned in and pressed her lips to his cheek, barely, for half a second, the lightest possible contact, already pulling back. "The bet was the mouth," said Cole Maddox, without moving a single other muscle in his body. The sound that came out of Jess was not a word. She was already standing, already 4 feet back, her face doing something she had absolutely no control over. Cole lifted his arm from his eyes. He looked at the ceiling for a moment. Then he turned his head and looked at her with an expression she had never seen on him before. Not angry, not cold, not the careful neutral he wore like a uniform. He looked like a man trying very hard not to smile. "The electric bill," he said, "is covered under your employment package. It has been since you started." He sat up, adjusted his tie, picked up the folder from the cushion beside him, and walked out of the library without another word. Priya had already fled. If you have ever done something completely mortifying in front of someone you secretly couldn't stop thinking about, stay with us. Because what happens over the next 3 months in this house is the kind of thing that starts with a stolen kiss on a dare and ends with something no one saw coming. Subscribe right now. Trust us on this one. Jess Calloway had taken the nanny position out of necessity. She was 26, 18 months out of a graduate program in child development that had cost more than it paid, and she had answered a recruiter's call on a Wednesday afternoon while eating crackers over a sink. The position, full-time nanny for one child, Mia Maddox, age 6, in the Maddox residence in the Gold Coast. Live-in, private room, private bath. Salary that made Jess read the number 3 times. The interview was with a woman named Sandra from an agency, not with Cole Maddox himself. He had been in Tokyo. She met Mia before she met him, a small, serious-faced girl with her father's dark eyes, who asked, in complete seriousness, whether Jess knew how to make a proper fort. Jess built the greatest fort of her professional life across the back 2 sofas. She got the job. She met Cole Maddox 4 days later, on a Monday evening when he came home at 7:15 and found her and Mia on the kitchen floor, running a complex marble run that used a spatula as a ramp. He stood in the doorway in his coat, and did not announce himself. He watched for 30 seconds before Jess noticed him. He nodded once, said goodnight, bugged to Mia, and went upstairs. That was the template. He was courteous in the way of a man who understood courtesy as a structural element. It held things in place. It kept the household running. It was not warmth and not intended to be. He asked after Mia's progress at her Tuesday art class. He thanked her for the Monday notes. He did not chat. He did not linger. He operated the house like a system he had designed for maximum efficiency and minimum friction, and Jess was a component of that system. And she had spent 18 months being entirely professional about the fact that he was also the most controlled and quietly devastating person she had ever been in close proximity to. And then Priya had come to visit on a Thursday afternoon, and Cole had been asleep on the library couch, and $50 had seemed like a reasonable sum. The morning after the library, Jess came downstairs at 6:50 to find Cole already in the kitchen, already in a suit. Mia was still asleep. He did not look up when she came in. She went to the refrigerator. She was extremely calm. She was not calm. "I want to be clear," she said, "that I understand that was completely unprofessional and it will never happen again." Cole poured his coffee. "Which part?" She turned around. "I'm sorry?" "The bet. Or the—" He paused. "Fractionally, the execution." She stared at him. He was looking at his coffee. "Both," she said. "All of it." "I'm sorry." He nodded slowly. "Jess." It was the first time he had used her name without the prefix. Not Miss Calloway, which was how he'd started. Not the gradual drop to simply Calloway, which had been the template for a year. Just her name. One syllable. "You've worked here for 18 months, he said. "You've never once given me a reason to question your judgment. You clearly have a friend who is a bad influence and an electricity bill that I should have clarified was covered when you started." He picked up the coffee. "We're not going to make this strange." "Okay," she said. "Good." He moved toward the door. Then he stopped. "For what it's worth," he said, not turning around, "you should have taken the full bet." He left. She stood at the refrigerator with the yogurt in her hand for a considerably longer time than it takes to decide you want yogurt. The thing was, it would have been easier if he'd been cold about it. Cold she could work with. Cold was what she'd expected, and she had an entire professional system built around his coolness. The careful distance, the measured interactions, the iron discipline of never letting herself think about him in ways that were not employment adjacent. But he had told her the bet was the mouth, and he had told her she should have taken it. And now he kept catching her eye across the kitchen table at Mia's Friday dinners in a way that was not accidental and was not nothing, and was making the iron discipline significantly harder to maintain. Mia noticed. Of course, Mia noticed. She was 6 and had her father's eyes, and her father's unsettling habit of seeing things she wasn't supposed to see. "Daddy was laughing in the car," Mia said one Saturday afternoon, completely out of nowhere, while Jess was braiding her hair. "Was he?" Jess said carefully. "About you." Mia said it with the factual simplicity of a child reporting the weather. "He was on the phone with Uncle Dex and he said your name." And then he laughed. "He doesn't usually laugh in the car." "That's nice," Jess said. She focused on the braid. "Do you like my dad?" Jess's hand stilled. "I think your dad is a very good person," she said. "That's not what I asked." "I know," Jess said. "Braid or 2 braids?" "2." Mia swiveled to face her directly. "He checked his phone 3 times at dinner last week, and you weren't even here." Jess looked at this 6-year-old and thought, "You are going to be extraordinary, and also extremely dangerous." "2 braids," she said firmly, and turned Mia back around. "The reckoning, because there was always a reckoning, in a house this small with two people working this hard to behave, came on a night in November, 3 months after the library. She had been at a staff dinner for the art class, a quarterly thing, and come home at 10 to find the house dark, except for the kitchen light. Cole was at the counter with a glass of whiskey and a document he wasn't reading. He looked up when she came in. "Good evening," he said. "Good evening." She hung up her coat. She turned around. "You're not reading that." He looked down at the document as though he had forgotten it was there. "No. How long have you been sitting here?" "A while." He set the document aside. He looked at her with the expression she had learned over the past 3 months to recognize as the one he wore when he had decided to stop being careful. It was quieter than his careful face, more expensive, somehow, like something he kept in a different room and only brought out when he was certain the house was ready for it. "I want to say something," he said. "And I want you to let me finish before you say anything." She sat down at the counter across from him. "Okay, you are the best thing that has happened to Mia since her mother died," he said. "And that is not a small statement. She is the entire thing, for me. There is nothing I have built or earned or done that matters the way she does. And you walked into this house, and in 4 days you had built her a fort, and in a month she was laughing the way she laughed before, and I noticed that. I noticed you." He paused. "I have been noticing you for 18 months, and I have been behaving correctly about it, because you work in my house and you are 10 years younger than me, and the power differential is real, and I am aware of it." She did not speak. He had asked her not to. "But I am also aware," he said, "that you kissed me on a dare, and then told me it would never happen again, and I am aware that it has been 3 months, and I have thought about it considerably more than I should have for a man who was allegedly asleep." He looked at her steadily. "So I am asking, not as your employer, just as myself. Is there something here? Or am I the only one who has been spending 3 months being unnecessarily careful?" The kitchen was very quiet. "You said the bet was the mouth," she said. "I did. That's not something you say to someone you're just being a professional with." "No," he agreed. "It isn't." She looked at him across the counter. Cole Maddox, who left 12-word messages and Monday notes and thanked her for the small things and had not said more than was necessary for 18 months, and was now sitting in his kitchen at 10 o'clock at night saying the most precise and honest thing she had ever heard a person say. "I came back to this house tonight," she said slowly, "specifically because I wanted to come home to it. Not just to my room. To this, the kitchen light on. The way the house sounds when you're in it." She stopped. "Yes, there is something here. There has been something here for a long time, and I have been very well behaved about it." He stood up. She stood up. He crossed the kitchen and stopped in front of her, close enough that she could see the particular gray of his eyes that she had spent 18 months not looking at directly for too long. "The bet was $50, he said. "I know. I'll cover the $50. You absolute," he kissed her. Not the half-second library ghost of it, not the careful things she had imagined and then firmly unimagined 100 times across 18 months. The real thing. His hands on either side of her face, unhurried, certain. The way he did everything, like a man who had made a decision and was completely at peace with it. When he pulled back, she was holding the front of his shirt without knowing when she'd grabbed it. "The power differential," she said, "is something we navigate carefully and honestly," he said. "Together, and you stop working for me in the house, and we find an arrangement for Mia that works, and we don't pretend this is simple when it isn't, and we also don't pretend it isn't real when it is." He looked at her. Can you work with that? I've been working with worse for 18 months, she said. He laughed. She had heard him laugh, across rooms, at things Mia said. But this close, directed at her, it was different. It was the best sound she had heard in years. Mia found out on a Sunday morning in December when she came downstairs and found them both in the kitchen, her father making eggs and Jess at the table with coffee. And the particular quality of the silence between two adults who are happy was apparently legible even to a 6-year-old, because Mia stopped in the doorway and looked between them for 3 full seconds, and then said, "Finally." Cole turned from the stove. "Finally?" "Uncle Dex said it would take you approximately forever." Mia climbed into her chair. "He owes me $5. There was a new nanny by January, a woman named Helen, who Mia approved after a rigorous Ford assessment. Jess moved into the apartment 3 blocks away after they had argued about it carefully and in good faith, and settled on something that felt like the right speed. They were 2 people who had been careful for so long that they had no interest in being reckless now that it mattered most. By spring, she was at the house most evenings. By summer, the 3 blocks felt longer than they were. In August, Cole told her the apartment was the right decision, but the distance was not, and asked whether she would consider something more permanent. She said she would consider it very seriously. She moved in on a Saturday in September with Mia directing the placement of every box with the authority of a small general. Cole carried everything she would let him carry, and did not carry anything she didn't. They were married the following June in the library. The long leather couch still against the far wall, with Mia in a yellow dress that she had chosen herself, and Uncle Dex in the front row looking vindicated in the way of a man who has been right about something for a long time. At the reception, Priya stood up to give a toast. She looked at Jess across the room with the expression of someone who has been waiting 2 years to say something. For the record, Priya said, "I was the architect of this entire relationship. I saw potential. I offered an incentive." She paused. "I was also technically owed $50, which was never Venmo'd. I have submitted an invoice." The room laughed. Cole, standing beside Jess, leaned down and said quietly, "I already paid her. Last week." Jess turned to look at him. "You paid her. With interest." He picked up his glass. She negotiated well. Jess looked at Priya, who was already sitting back down with the extremely satisfied expression of a woman who has been vindicated on multiple levels simultaneously. "You are unbelievable," Jess said. "I've been told." He touched his glass to hers. "Are you glad she dared you?" She looked around the room. The library. The long couch. Mia in yellow, already cross-legged on the floor with 2 of the younger guests, already building something out of the ribbon from the gift table. The house breathing easily, for the first time, with no one's permission required. "I would have done it for free," she said. He smiled. That close, that certain, still the most controlled person she had ever known, and completely, helplessly undone by her. She could see it. She had been able to see it for months, and she never got tired of looking. Some bets are not about the money. Some dares are the universe's way of making you do the thing you already wanted to do, but needed 12 words from a terrible friend and $50 to start. Some kisses land on the wrong part of the face, and the right person notices, and nothing is ever the same after. The bet was the mouth. It always was, and it was worth every single cent. If this story made you smile, share it with the person in your life who would absolutely take the dare. And subscribe, because we are here every week, and we are just getting started.